Hello, everybody. Carl and I were just talking about she's got allergies. I'm convinced it's allergies. Allergies are bad right now.
Well, it
Oh
is
my
spring. It is pollen season. It's supposed to be.
It is, and I'm kind of glad it rained last night. So, hi everybody. Thanks for spending your Sunday morning with us. And if you are not live or you're just checking in and then want to check out, this lives on my Facebook page, which is now, I changed the name this week. It's now Allison Jacobson Midlife Maven, which really reflects more of where I'm going in life. So that's why I changed that. But you can always get it if you're not around. I know some people, it's really hard to get up this early in the morning, which is totally cool. I have no problem with that.
Oh, you. She texts me at 5:30 in the morning. I roll over at 7:30, and there's the message from Allison. I'm like, oh my God, what does this girl do?
Well, it's so funny because my business partner is the same way. Although she's kind of on both the same, like she's on both sides, but usually she'll text me at night, I'll wake up to it, and I'll text her in the morning, and then I know she'll get it later on. But it's whenever you do your best thinking, right?
Well, for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's my creative time. I read something this morning, as a matter of fact, that the average person only has about 2 to 3 hours of creative time a day. So it's so important you figure out when that is.
That's very interesting. 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, I believe it. So what's been really awesome, I think, about these 9 a.m. chats we've been doing is as we've been chatting, more and more topics have been coming up that we want to cover. And I think we could literally go into the next year with this because there is so much to cover. And the one we're covering today, to me, is one of the most important things for women, especially in midlife, to hear, because I think growing up, we didn't get this. And what this is the permission to say no. And I'm actually writing a blog about this right now. Think about it. When we were growing up, right, we were playing with dolls and hey, Jody, good morning. When we're talking about as we were growing up, we were taught as women to play nice, to do what we were told, to be the nurturer because we played with dolls, at most of us, and we really were the nurturers. And then think about when we went to school, right? What our report cards reflected were we, played nicely with others. We listened to the teacher. We did all those things we were supposed to do to be the good girl. And God forbid we stepped out of that boundary and said no, right? And think about even today, how as women, we always feel like we have to say yes. And sometimes that comes out of guilt, right? As a mom, we always feel like we want to give everything to our kids, so we don't want to say no, even if it's a pain in the ass for us at that time, right? If we are the good employee, we try to do everything right. And I think what's happened to that is we think that no is this ugly word, and it's not. No is a beautiful word as long as it's used lovingly. And so I think that we need to learn when we say no to what doesn't serve us, we have the chance to say yes to what our real desires are. And we have to remember that's important for our well-being. I always talked about, that analogy when you're on the plane, put your own mask on first before you put on your kid's mask. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not being selfish. That is taking care of yourself. And I think that, the boundaries we need to set up around people, especially when it comes to family and friends, and especially family who, we can't necessarily get rid of. We can't get rid of our mother-in-law. We can't get rid of our sister-in-law.
Greg just signed on. Your husband just signed on. Yes, Greg, he's not getting rid of you yet.
That's right. So we have to figure out how to set those boundaries so that we're okay. And even when I started my business, some people, like, I've been an entrepreneur basically all my life, and some people, and even Carla, to your extent, like, you kind of are an entrepreneur as well.
I totally.
And there's a lot of people who are like, how can you be an entrepreneur? There's no job security. You don't know what's going to happen. And there's a lot of people that don't support you. And I found it was so important for me about 10 years ago to find this working group of women. And we met once a week, and they jazzed me, they empowered me. And I needed that juice to keep me going. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to people who have some good thoughts and some constructive thoughts, but at the end of the day, you need to be surrounded by those people who are going to lift you up and empower you. You know?
I totally agree with you. And it is insecure to be an entrepreneur, but damn, it's fun.
Right?
Isn't it?
Right. And I mean, even God forbid, look at what's going on now in COVID. Like, yeah, it's hard for small business entrepreneurs, but no one knew who was going to get furloughed. No one knew who was going to get laid off. I mean, I remember when I worked at Weber Shandwick, which was a large PR firm, right? There was a series of layoffs we went through. No one knew what was going to happen. So to think you've got job security is baloney.
That's really true. There's very little in terms of job security these days anywhere. So one of the things that I am lucky to do is be a pastor. And one of the things that we have in common, Allison, not only are we women of a certain age, but we're people in the public sphere that are asked things of, right? Where people are asking things of us in a very public way, not only our families, but people. And I get the privilege, and it is a privilege it's a mixed bag, but it's a privilege to walk with people during their very most difficult times. So in that, people are raw, and people are vulnerable and open, and you really have to, as the person who's on this side of the equation, know your boundaries, which you started talking about. You really need to know what is and isn't okay for you in that particular time and place. So just because somebody that you're dealing with is in a particular state of mind, and I know that you're a big helper of a lot of people, doesn't automatically mean that you have to be exactly in the same place as they are. And sometimes people cross boundaries, like they'll say, and I have this category called NOYDB, which stands for
NOYDB. I like that.
None of your damn business. And some of the NOYDB things I don't want people, are verbal. So sometimes people will say, how much weight have you gained or lost? It's none of your damn business.
No.
Or, how old are you? NOYDB. Or how much money do you earn or have you saved? NOYDB. How about, are you having sex? Or what is your gender? And I know that that was a particular interest to you. Want to say something about that?
Yeah, I think our society has come so far in some ways. I mean, I know we have a lot of way to go in terms of racism, but in terms of sexuality, I think that we've come very far. And what I mean by that, and honestly, there's probably people who are going to watch this who have no thoughts about this because it's never been brought to their attention. But in many circles and in many times, and you talked about this, Carla, you identify with a certain gender or a certain sex, and it may not be the gender you were born to. So in many meetings I'm at now, and you are too, you start by introducing yourself and by stating what gender you identify with. So I would say, my name is Allison Jacobson, she, her, hers. And I know that's really strange, but in this day and age, we've been allowed to do that, and that's that boundary. And I was so excited. So, Carla, for anybody who doesn't know, and again, I've always said these Sundays are about spirituality, but religion. And I met Carla when she was my assistant minister, and we are both part of the United Church of Christ. And what I love about that is it's one of the most accepting and open religions there are. And you said people are respecting those boundaries of sexuality now, right?
Well, in my circles, I'm really glad. I was the associate pastor at United Church of Rowayton when Allison was a member there. Are you still a member there? No, you're
Yeah.
not. Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like a long, long time ago. But yes, through the years, the United Church of Christ, and this is not a commercial, it's just a fact, is a denomination that's really been in the forefront of gender equality and fairness and being open about sexuality as well. And I'm really, really proud of that.
Yeah. And that is a boundary of, just none of your damn business.
So let's go back
You know what?
I love none of your damn business. And by the way, Patty Carroll's on. Hi, Patty.
Hi, Patty. And Jody, I'm so glad you said they're doing this in college classes. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. Here's another one. And I think it's particularly, it could be anywhere, but certainly it's in Fairfield County. People say, where do you live? Like, what part of town or what town do you live in? And that's a big, like, it can be a conversation or it can be a, what's your economic status? And it's none of your damn business.
Right. Well, and here's another one that, comes up too. And I never want women who work with me. And by the way, if you have not joined my Facebook group, my midlife tribe, Fabulous Fierce Females, please go join, because it's a place where we can have conversations as women of midlife. But, I think one of the challenges, especially for women who were in corporate America, who made the choice to leave. Now, some people don't get that choice, but some get that choice to leave and be stay-at-home moms. And there's no more of a conversation ender than, what do you do for a living? And when a woman will say, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom, almost as if like she's kind of excusing herself. And let me tell you, if no one has figured out now how hard it is to be a stay-at-home mom,
it's harder.
Amen to you. But that's another one. Like, it's none of your damn business what choices I've made, whether I've made the choice to stay working or I haven't made the choice to stay working. That's my choice, my boundary.
I do remember when my daughter was really little and I was a single mom and I was working. It was definitely easier to go to work. Not that I didn't love my daughter, but it was just easier to go and have the structure and,
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on to boundaries, physical boundaries. Let's talk about physical boundaries.
Huge.
Especially during these virus days. Don't grab my hand. And
right.
You know how people will go, don't grab my hand and don't touch my body or grab to hug me unless you ask me for permission. Jody wrote something.
Yeah, Jody made a good point. Do you think sometimes people are asking these questions to make themselves feel better about themselves? Like they're constantly focused on comparing. 100%, Jody. Like
I'm not saying I disagree, Jody, but it's kind of like the conversation we were having last week about people in mourning. Sometimes people just say stupid things because they just say stupid things.
True, but I feel two things. One, I felt like the stay-at-home moms who kind of were putting me down being a working mom were actually envious of the opportunity to get out and do something and make my own money and have my time away from my kids. I do think there was a little bit of that snarkiness. And I don't know what you found, but going through my divorce, and we'll talk about boundaries, that was one of the hardest boundaries, because I had friends who were like, well, why are you getting a divorce? I mean, why aren't you sticking it out? And as much as they got snarky, I think they were envious that I was living my life and choosing my path, which goes back to that it's okay to say no.
Yeah, it definitely is okay to say no. Another boundary that uh, I'm very big on is don't stalk me. Don't stalk me at my house. Don't wait for me after work or stalk me at
Oh,
my house or online. You must get stalked online a lot,
I do. It's kind of creepy sometimes.
right? The trolls,
Yeah.
don't. And sometimes people do it because they think it's funny. It's not funny. It's
No.
scary.
Yeah.
And how about virtual stuff like people who might feel adamant about getting in touch with you and they call over and over? I'm very good at picking up my messages. And when I can, I will get back. And because I do care, but you don't have to call over and over. And you don't have to call in the middle of the night unless it's an emergency. And then that's absolutely okay.
Well, and on the flip side of that, that's something I've had to work on in my personal life. Like I, and it was more of a business thing than a personal thing. But the minute somebody reaches out to me, I feel like I have to answer immediately.
Yeah, you don't.
Right. And that's something I've really had to work on to say now is not the right time. And I've now purposely, like we said in the beginning of this chat, like the 2 hours of creativity, I know that's my morning time. So I have purposely, some of my girlfriends were getting into text chats in the morning. I'm not getting involved. I need to stay focused on my work in the morning.
Are you telling me they get into text chats at 5:30 in the morning?
No, nine,
Oh,
nine.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, no, no, no.
So where else are we going with this?
Well, you know what I absolutely loved, and I'm going to put this up. You had some really good, let's see how we're going to show this
Well,
in
I
the
like the
stream.
healthy relationships one.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. Hold on. I'm going to take myself. You back?
I'm back. Were you?
Sorry, I screwed up. I screwed up.
That's okay.
Okay, so hold on. I'm going to go back to this because no one could hear what we were saying.
Oh,
So we're going to show that in the stream.
we
I
can't.
love.
Yeah, Jody said we can't hear you.
Yeah, I know. Hold on, Jody. Solo off, solo on, hide you, hide me. Show and stream. I'm there. Can you hear me? Weird. So, okay, there we go. We can't hear you. Can you hear me now? Hold on. Let's see. Somebody's saying something. See the chart, but can't hear you. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now. I think there was something, I think something went wonky with the Wi-Fi. Oh, okay. So I'll put these up, but so talk about this a little bit. and I'm gonna try to now see how I can change this. Let's see if I can go to, hold on, let me try something one more time. There we go. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to try one thing because I want to try to make this bigger because I think this was really cool. Hold on. No. All right. I have to be in the stream to share. But this is a really cool chart. And you guys, I will post this as infographics later, fair arguing versus unfair arguing. Talk to me about that because that's really cool. Oh my God, it makes me crazy. It makes me crazy. Oh, hold on. They can't hear Carla, so I'm going to go like this. It might not work. There. We're not going to be able to put this up. So I'm going to hide that. There we go. I'm going to put the infographic up about the arguing versus not arguing later. Okay. So we're going to go back over this because I didn't hear. So no name calling, which is hard.
All right, let's go to, yeah, okay, we'll do unfair arguing first. No yelling or over talking. Now, in some cultures, this is not possible. People in some cultures are louder in arguing than others, and I think that we have to take that into account. But once you start raising your voice, you can see it in your dog, or your pet. They get nervous, then you're yelling. Don't become physical or threaten violence, obviously. No name calling or insults. No getting into the person's face or blaming the other person or ignoring the other person or shutting down. That's unfair arguing. Fair arguing. Listen before responding. This is very important. It's very hard to do because if somebody is saying something that you don't agree with or you don't like or you don't think is true, you want to jump on it, but try not to. Try to remain calm and express how what they said made you feel instead of blaming them. And then I think this is really important. And it took my husband and myself a long time to figure this out. There are times when you're arguing that you just need to walk away, that it's just too heated, or you need to go to another room. I love my husband, and he's a wonderful guy, but he really did buy into this whole concept of you never go to bed angry, which is bullshit.
Oh man,
I mean,
I know, right?
Because you don't want to be up all night trying to figure out how to not be angry. Sometimes you just got to walk away, focus on the solution rather than the problem, and also primarily important, it's okay to disagree.
And I think, and this gets back to boundaries, and it's a really good point you just made about you and your husband, and I guarantee everybody on here feels the same way. I think before anybody gets in a relationship, they should figure out how they argue, right? Because if you have two people, like you said, like if you've got two people who believe in never going to bed angry, cool, they could stay up 24 hours till they figure it out. But if you, like you said, if you've got two different styles of arguing, you're gonna push into each other's boundaries.
Yeah.
And you gotta figure that out. Like I analyze and analyze and analyze. Like my mother always said she hated arguing with me because she could never win, because I would just keep talking it through and rationalizing and logically. And she was more of the German of, well, this is the way it is, right? And so it was very different. And I think it's so important in every relationship to find out your arguing styles, because if not, like you could really push boundaries.
And there is a point of saturation and no return, and you're just too tired, or you're, as Jody said, you just need to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to agree on everything. There's just no.
Yeah. Although I have to say, Greg and I have dear friends of ours, a couple. He's a total Republican. She's a total Democrat. I honestly don't know how they do it.
That's what I have.
Oh, that's right. You do. I forgot.
Yeah.
How the heck do you maintain?
I think over the years I've learned that we actually have come to more of a middle ground with each other. And I think it's, for me in particular, because I'm such a raving progressive liberal, that it was really important for me to see that there is another point of view. I don't agree with it. I don't like it, but they have a right to it.
Right.
People have a right to it. Who I was listening to somebody really wonderful last night on the news or TV or something, and they talked about the folks that were coming out protesting against the stay-at-home orders, if you want to call it orders, and the guns and it's really okay to protest, and God help us, that is our right as Americans. It's really scary when people start bringing guns and acting like it's a hostile takeover.
Yeah.
A whole different level.
Well, and I was just watching the news, and they were showing this poor employee at a Costco literally got his arm broken because he needed to tell two customers to put on masks. And it's like, seriously? You guys, I mean, this is his job, the poor guy.
I hope those guys were arrested.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. But I also, and I'm a very big believer in law of attraction. And I found this really good quote from Saint Ignatius of Loyola. For those who believe, no words are necessary. For those who do not believe, no words are possible. And I think that's gotten to be the case. What?
What does that mean to you?
Well, I think in a couple of ways, right? So from a law of attraction standpoint, it's almost like you either get it or you don't. And if I have to talk to you and talk to you and talk to you and convince you of it, there's no words that I'm going to be able to do. You're either going to buy into it or not. And Abby will tell you, she's seen it in action with me now. So for people who get it, you really don't have to talk about it, right? It just happens. And I think that's the case with religion, with spirituality, with so many things. There's just so much you can talk about. It's like when you're fighting somebody on social media about guns, about any, you can talk till you're blue in the face. They're just not going to agree with you. So at some point, words just don't matter anymore.
Well, also, I think your intention is important. If your goal is to change someone's mind, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
The goal is to communicate openly with them and hear their point of view, then you're going to win.
Yeah.
That's the winner.
Yeah.
And speaking of religion, can I do a plug for my new gig?
Yes.
So if anybody is interested in a traditional worship service at 10 a.m., go to Central Congregational Church of Torrington.
Wait, hold on. Is that a website?
Yeah, Center Congregational Church, Torrington. And
Center Congregational.
I did. And I'll be
Hold on. Center Congregational Church of Torrington,
Connecticut.
Cool.
So that's my plug. Is there anything else on the sheets that I sent you that you want to talk about?
No, but just again, I'm going to put all of these infographics up in this thread. This will stay on Facebook. I'll also be posting it on YouTube. Um, and we're going to be back next week, but I would love you to end with that prayer.
Yeah, let's talk about that. We're talking because it's something, a word we didn't mention, but is an important word, toxic, which is what you started off with today. So let's end with this prayer. Gracious God, Spirit, shelter me from the abuse and harm of people who are toxic, even when they don't mean to be. Guide me to be free from the hurt of others, but also free me from my mistakes. Help me have eyes to see behavior around me that's not appropriate and in me that's not appropriate, and give me the strength, courage, and resilience to break free from that and choose the path of life. I am grateful to you, God, for protection and guidance. Thank you for goodness, graciousness, kindness, and love. Amen.
Amen.
And thank you, Allison, for your generosity and all the wonderful things you do.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us. And everybody, have a wonderful weekend. And we will be back next Sunday.
Great.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.